Welcome to the chat, fam. Welcome to the chat. This is another Sunday. I always go live the second Sunday of every month. Welcome to chat. Welcome to those that are coming in. Welcome to those that may be seeing this by the replay. Thank you for the replay gang that's going to see this. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for coming on today. I always go live the second Sunday of every month for now until further notice where I may go live more often than that. And so I just want to talk about a few things. So this is Cruise Talk Sunday. I want to talk about a few things going on in cruising and the main topic I want to discuss today about is it better, is bigger better? Is it better to go on a bigger ship or not? So let's let's discuss. Let's go forward and let us discuss. So, first things first, in cruise news, I'm not sure if you have been looking at what's been going on, but there's so much going on. But first, let's start off with the good news. So, Carnival Jubilee is one of the new Excel class ships from Carnival that just came out in Galveston. It seems like it has great reviews. People are loving it, and so they decided that they wanted to and they needed to have a godmother. If you don't know it, all these cruise lines have godmothers for their cruise ships. And so, who did the Carnival decide for the godmother of Carnival Jubilee? Gwen Stefani. They sent out a statement and it says Carnival Cruise Line announced today that global music superstar Gwen Stefani will be honored as the godmother of Carnival's new flagship Carnival Jubilee at a naming ceremony and celebration in Galveston, Texas on Saturday, February 24th. And it says, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome Gwen Stefani onto Carnival Jubilee so we can honor her as the ship's godmother, said Christine Duffy, the president of Carnival Cruise Line. So my main thing is, does anybody ever wonder how is it that they choose these individuals? Some of these individuals you almost wonder, have you ever been on a cruise ship at all? Like what is your association with being on a cruise ship? Have you ever taken a cruise? When you feel like people are more rich, you think of more yachts than necessarily cruising. And so how do they identify with the regular cruiser, the individual that goes on cruises constantly every year? And but their reasoning is that she has demonstrated her commitment to our carnival values, including promoting diversity and inclusion, supporting charitable causes, being a leader in her field, and of course, having fun. We are going to show her an enthusiastic welcome in only the way Carnival can when she joins us on February 24th. So, this is not something where everybody can go on to. I'm sure there's individuals that's going to be invited specifically to that. So what you think about that? That's individuals that you don't even know. So they're more or less being celebrated as a godmother because they feel that what they do, their brand, is coinciding with the values of Carnival. Not so much individuals that you don't even know if they've ever been on Carnival. You don't know if they've ever ridden on Carnival as a passenger, as a regular passenger. You don't know if they know what it is to be a Carnival passenger or not, but because of their values. What do you think about it? Do you feel like they should be at least individuals that come on the ship, experience the ship, know what it is to be a passenger, to see if it's like something that they would really do for themselves and their family, or just based upon the values and what they do outside of anything related to cruising? So let me know what you think about that. And so there has been several things that has been going along this month. It's so much things in cruising, some things to cruise lines detriment, some things that were not making cruising look good, and there's some things that the non-cruiser only needs one thing to happen before they can say, this is the reason why I'm not going to cruise, this is the reason why I do not want to cruise. And so there have been some things in the news like that. For example, the illness breakout. I'm reading this from ABC News. And so this came out just on the 9th and said an illness outbreak aboard a Cunard cruise line. Cunard is under the Carnival Corporation. Cunard Cruise Line has spread now, leaving at least 154 people experiencing symptoms such as vomiting and diarrhea, according to the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. A total of 129 passengers and 25 crew members on the Queen Victoria have reported being ill during the voyage, an increase of 15 people from when the illness was reported on February 1st. And so the cause of the gastrointestinal disease outbreak aboard the Queen Victoria cruise, which departed Fort Lauderdale on January 22nd, is currently unknown. And so this can be kind of nerve wracking because usually when, how you doing, Shay Adventures? Thank you for coming on. Usually when there is an issue, right? So one of the common things that they say of gastrointestinal issues or stomach issues, they'll call it the norovirus. And so for them to have an outbreak on Cunard Cruise Line and the Center of Disease Control and Prevention do not know where it's coming from is an issue. So why is it that they don't know where or what kind of disease these individuals are? They're throwing up, they're having diarrhea, they're having all these issues, and they don't know really where it's coming from. And so the ship's only thing is say, well, we have to sanitize, we have to clean more. And my thing is, since COVID, for you to say that you still have to sanitize more, they already should be protocols in place. We've been through the pandemic. There should already be things in place so that nothing like this happen. If it's related to something that is sanitary and something that the ship can take control of and control. And so if it's something not related to it, for you to you should already be saying we have the best sanitation possible. This is the protocols we have in place. We do not know how is it that this happened on our cruise ship. And so for those individuals that, don't want to cruise, things of that nature where people are going on cruise ships and this vomiting, diarrhea, they don't know what is happening, they don't know what caused it. These are the things that will try to prevent people from coming on a cruise ship. And so this is just one of the things that happen in cruising. Very sad of what is happening concerning, but at the same time, how do you prepare? Like, how do you try to protect yourself? You can say something in the comments. When you're on a cruise ship, a lot of the times, you know, buffet is the place where people are touching utensils. You see people, they're not covering their mouth. I'm not sure. Do you like going to the buffet or do you not like going to the buffet because of that? Sometimes there's kids, and so they may have that glass that kind of covers the food, but then kids may be right there where the food is. And so, what do you do to kind of protect yourself? Like, one of the things I try to do is there's some cruise lines that really emphasize washing hands. So, there's a very big joke, I think it's Norwegian. There'll be always somebody like washy 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 washy. If you ever been on like a note, there'll always be somebody saying that before you get into the buffet. And so it's fine, you wash your hands. Do you use hand sanitizer? Do you go to your table and then after holding those utensils go back and wash your hands? So how is it that you kind of help preventing you from getting sick, ill because of things of that nature? Say something in the chat so I can know. So what does it do that what do you do to prevent things of that nature and to kind of protect yourself from trying to get sick? And so next we have another issue that happened on Carnival Magic. Now, Carnival Magic I've been on, and I do like Carnival Magic. And so I thought it was a nice ship. And so, have you heard what happened with Carnival Magic? Just recently, I'm looking at an article, Carnival Cruise Ship hosting musical festival. So that means that it was a chartered ship. It wasn't necessarily, but still, it was still going to be a Carnival captain, but it was a chartered ship. Carnival cruise ship hosting musical festival at sea hits Jamaica port, leaving passengers stuck on land. And so passengers on a musical festival at sea had the blues when severe weather caused their Carnival cruise ship to hit a pier in Jamaica. Avoid taking the top plate. Oh, so okay. So Linda says that instead of taking the top plate that people may have put back, maybe she takes the pull a plate, an empty plate underneath, and then goes around and tries to serve it. That's a way also of doing it. The incident impacted the Carnival Magic ship at 11 a.m. Tuesday in Ocherios report said strong winds and swells caused the pier fender to collapse under pressure. The ship had to leave the area where it was dock at another nearby pier later on, and guests who were ashore were then able to rejoin the ship, the spokesman said. And so, therefore, one of the things about cruising, if you've ever cruised for any length of time, there are going to be things that happen, unfortunately, because of the weather. There's going to be things that happen. Sometimes ships, for whatever reason, just hit the dock. There is just going to be just different situations. Sometimes there are issues where the ship, because of weather, has to miss a port, change ports altogether. And so this was unfortunate for these people, for on their cruise ship, on this chartered cruise. And so one of the things that I do personally, I had an incident. The vlogs are coming out soon. I had an incident on a ship for Virgin Voyager Scarlet. We had to miss some of our ports. And so, but fortunately, I did have insurance. So, is there anybody that does insurance, or you kind of waive the insurance? You let me know. And so, a lot of people, they don't do the insurance, especially based upon how they book. If they book right before the cruise or what have you, they may not do insurance. But I do insurance for the most part. Being from New York, cruise lines like Carnival, for whatever reason, if there's a law, you cannot get the insurance directly through the cruise line. So I always have to do some other insurance somewhere else. And so I don't know what law is in place, but it seems like I always have difficulty. There is something that if you try to go for some of these cruise lines and get insurance, you can't. So having said that, I was able to do insurance. So things of this nature are really beneficial for insurance. Why? Because one of the insurance I had was not only trip disruption, but it also had cancel anytime. So the trip disruptions for insurance sometimes can be beneficial and give you more money than even what you paid for the insurance. For example, anytime that you miss a port for the insurance that I had, I would have to just give them the letter that they put into the stateroom. And then with that letter, you just give it to the insurance to show that you missed the ports. The ports that you were supposed to go to, you did not go to. And then I was able to get $100 per port. If there's some changes that you had because that particular ship got back to Miami late, I had to change my flight. There was a change fee with Delta. I have to show them that bill, and then they reimburse me for that as well. And so that was the benefit of that. But there's times when things of this happens, and unfortunately, I in that same ship, I had to get off the port late. But I could imagine that some people may be getting on the ship late. Have you ever been on a cruise where you got on the ship way later than you intended to, or got off the ship way later than you were supposed to, and it was because of weather issues? Things of this happen not all the time, but mostly in the summer, especially when it gets crazy. But even the winter, some of this weather has been very volatile, and you just have to prepare yourself for any type of weather. So I feel like cruise people is a different type of people, because we gotta, especially people who have been cruising for a time. If you've been cruising, for a little while, and you experience something, then it may just kind of say like, man, I don't want to go back. And that was it for me. And so let's deal with one more thing. So there's been some travel advisory that's happening, and so we know about travel advisories. We've have gone through the pandemic, and so we know about the travel advisories. But now the travel advisories is impacting two Caribbean countries: Nassau, Bahamas, and Jamaica. And so the U.S. state government is really trying to caution people from going to these countries. It says in this article from Travel Nor, Caribbean islands are usually distinct destinations where people kick up their feet and relax and sip a drink. But the United States Department of State recently issued a travel advisory for travelers considering trips to the islands of Bahamas and Jamaica. There have been increasing concerns regarding safety and crime, particularly in seaside areas. And so, Department of State classifies countries on a scale ranging from one, exercise normal precautions, to level four, do not travel at all. And so, therefore, what the Bahamas is trying to say, they do not want to discourage people from coming to the island. And so they're trying to defend themselves. And they said the Bahamian government reassured United States tourists about the safety of the island despite recent travel warnings issued. In a statement released by the office, the government emphasized its commitment to vigilance and proactive measures to maintain the Bahamas as a secure and premier destination. The rating of the Bahamas has not changed, remain at level 2 along most tourism destinations. And so what Bahamas is saying, please don't stop coming to our country. We are putting measures in place, we are putting things in place to keep you safe, even though the Department of State said what they said. And so, would this be something that would discourage you? Put something in the comments. Would that be something that would discourage you from going to a country, or would that be something where you would just be more cautious when you go to that country? Would that? So the thing about it is, now you have to weigh it out. So for those individuals, you may think like, okay, if there's some cautions, it's possible that now, if people don't go, that it'll be cheaper. So it may be cheaper for flights. Maybe when the demand is low, they'll always decrease the price for like hotels. So now, do you say, let me take advantage of the fact that they have these warnings in place, and then that people may not want to go to these countries, and then just be really safe and stay on the resort? Or do you say, like, I'm going to change my plans, I'm going to cancel, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to take heed to these warnings, I am not going to these countries until that Department of State? How much weight do you give what the Department of State is saying, when it comes to these Caribbean countries? And so, because the Bahamas are trying to defend themselves, I don't see much from Jamaica. um, but I feel like even when you go to Jamaica on a normal, every place you go to, maybe somebody could say something regarding this. Every place you go to, it doesn't matter where you go to. It doesn't, even if it's somewhere in the United States, you have to be cautious. Whether you're by yourself, whether you're with family, just don't go places. Don't feel like you just can go anywhere. Just be cautious wherever you're going. And so, if you're cautious wherever you're going, hopefully nothing will happen to you. But just don't put yourself out there thinking that, I'm a tourist, I'm in the United States, wherever you go, whatever your country you go, regardless of how safe it may be, there may be always that one person, who has another alternative, another agenda. And so they're like, I'm done. I don't want you don't want to go anywhere because something that's happened. So just always be cautious. And so the main thing I want to talk about is, so now Royal Caribbean just came out with Icon. There's so many videos regarding Icon. I don't know if anybody's interested in going Icon. So many people went on Icon, and it was very expensive. The price of the ship was very high, but that's what happens when the demand is high, because they have been promoting this as the biggest ship in the world, the biggest cruise ship in the world, and they're coming out with one next year that's even bigger. And so my thing is to you, is big too big? Like, ha- is it a desire for you to even go on these ships and just to be going on ships that's bigger and bigger? I feel like when it comes to a certain amount, it can just get too big. Like, that means it's just taking you longer to get from one place to another on a ship. More like than likely, there's a lot of things with reservations, so to be able to keep kind of some more order that's going on. So it's just not like first come, first served, and maybe do some reservation systems. I feel like the shorter the cruise, then you may not be able to enjoy the ship like you want, because there's so much to it. For example, I went on Carnival Mardi Gras, and I went on Carnival Celebration. These are their biggest ships, the XL class ships. When I got on Mardi Gras, it was a 7 day cruise. And when I went on that ship, I just felt a little overwhelmed. And I felt like I was just trying to do everything as much as possible. I was trying to, places I never ate at, trying to explore the ship, trying to look at that, trying to go to different shows, and trying to put everything in my schedule. And it just became just overwhelming. I couldn't get everything. I'm like, oh, I missed that show, because something was conflicting, and then trying to just do dinner and maybe some specialty restaurants. And so it just was so encompassing and so much overwhelming. And that's not even the biggest ship in the world. I can imagine how Icon is. And so when it came to celebration, when I've got a celebration, the only thing that kind of helped was the fact that I was familiar with Mardi Gras and it was the same type of ship. And so therefore I just had to go to their venues that was specifically different to them. And since I've been on Mardi Gras, then I can kind of know and feel out what I want. But if you're a person that has never been on this type of class of ship and you're going there for the first time, and it can you feel like this is the ship for me? And in fact, a lot of people don't want bigger. A lot of people don't feel like bigger is better. And so I have this blog, and there's been a rumor going around that maybe after next year, Utopia of the Seas is coming out this year, and that's equivalent to the Wonder class. So Wonder ship, which was the biggest ship of the year before Icon. And so there's a rumor going around, and it's really deeply entrenched in truth, that because people are not satisfied, you have to realize there's an older population that's also going on ships. And so it's not just Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y. There's an old population, and to be able to maneuver and be mobile on these massive ships may be an issue. And so therefore you have to be able to encompass like all the people. So what is it, if you've been on Royal, what is your favorite class ship? You can leave something in the comments. And so I see this blog. It says one of the most intriguing questions out there is if Royal Caribbean will ever build a smaller cruise ship. Now this is from the Royal Caribbean. So Royal Caribbean is known for its big ships, and the line has steadily been building bigger ships over the last 2 decades. While the new massive ships certainly garner a lot of attention because of how big they are, there's still a role that smaller cruise ships can play. Speaking at the President Cruise event on Law of the Seas on Monday, Royal Caribbean President and CEO Michael Bailey answered a question from the audience regarding a smaller cruise ship. Haley Evans from Living Adventures shared a video clip being asked about a small ship. We are excited about Icon, but we're wondering the other ports where you can't have these large ships. Are you going to make other smaller ships? And so that's a great point. You have these large ships. You are going to be limited in the ports where this ship can be. And so therefore you go on these cruise ships that are larger, but you can't go to some of the smaller ports. And so then it limits you then to how many destinations you can have out of Florida. So it doesn't matter, you're bigger, but you cannot go to the smaller ships. They don't you can't have a you don't have a port that can maybe have can hold your size. And so what's the benefit of it then? Will you keep going on these bigger ships just because they're big, even though you go to the same ports over and over? Like I'm a type of person that once I've gone to I'm getting to the point where it's going to be more about the ports than the ships. There's places I want to see, places I've never been to, and so I feel like this thing of being a bigger ship may be nice, even if you experience one time. But at the end of the day, once you've been on an Icon, or do you want to get Star of the Seas and just for it to be a little bigger? Like, do you want to keep going bigger, even at the detriment of having to keep going to the same ports? Is that is that what cruising is about? Ships more than ports? I think that cruising is about destinations more than the size of the ship. Unless you're an individual that I don't want to get off the ship, I'm fine with just being on the ship. There's individuals that do that, but for me, um I want to see more of the world. And so it's beneficial that if these big ships are not getting me there, then give me the smaller ship. Give me the smaller ship that's going to get me to the destinations where I need to be. So we are excited about Icon, but we are wondering the other ports where you can't have these large ships. Are you going to make other small ships? So this is to the Royal President. Mr. Bailey was quick to admit that the smaller vessels in the fleet are starting to show their age. All right. We recognize that we have classes of ships now that are, getting a little up there in years. While we didn't mention them, the Vision class, the Radiance class, cruise ships are the smallest of Royal Caribbean ships and usually get sent to ports that can't handle big ships. And so therefore, so his justification is not so much about demand, but his justification is that we have these smaller ships that are going to different ports that can handle these big ships. And so they're getting older now. So we are more likely going to bring in smaller ships. And so I feel like okay, for example, I have Utopia of the Seas, and this is going to be my first experience with Royal. It's a huge ship. As I said, it's on the same platform as Wonder of the Seas, which was before Icon, the biggest ship of the world. I'm going on a weekend trip because that's how they kind of advertised it, that you can do these nice ships and the big. But even in that, for me to be able to take advantage, I think we're going to Nassau or something of that nature, but the Bahamas, for me to take advantage of that ship and to be able to explore it. You think I'm getting off the ship? I have to then make that as my vacation, the ship, and be able to explore the ship because it's such a short duration of time, much less those individuals. And so those individuals that take a longer time and then they have ports to get off. And there's some people who they always want to get off the ship. It doesn't matter if they've been there. It doesn't matter if they do an excursion or not. They want to get off the ship. They want to just go around, maybe do some shopping, whatever it is. Maybe you want some jewelry. You just want to get off the ship and just experience the port itself. Maybe you have places where you like to go get something to eat, your favorite restaurant, whatever it is, that you like for specific ports. And so there's some individuals that are like that. And so I'm just so curious, do you just want these bigger ships because they're bigger, or do you just desire to be able to go places where you have never been before? Um, Anybody leave anything in the chat or in the comments? A question for you: is that something that you desire? Was is Icon something that you would like to go on? You don't care so much about the ports; you just want the experience on the ship, or do you want to go to the ports? Because that's the reason why sometimes, even though people have these loyalty programs, like I'm in the loyalty program of Carnival, and I'm about to start going to different cruise lines, because of the fact that I want to experience different ports. For example, Carnival used to sail out of Puerto Rico. They used to sail out of Puerto Rico prior to the pandemic in 2020, because I had a cruise out of Puerto Rico in 2020, and those cruises used to go to Barbados. They even had a cruise ship from Barbados to back and forth. They would leave from Barbados as well, and so that cruise would be able to cover some of the islands which I've never done before, Tortola and Barbados and things of that nature. And since they stopped it, they have not really been back unless it's like a 11, 14 day. It's a longer cruise. Whereas I can get those islands, if I'm leaving out of Puerto Rico, I can get those same islands in a 7-day cruise. Right? I could take those other days that I don't have to cruise. I could use it for another time, for another cruise. And so it's beneficial then to be able to go to another cruise line. So it's not about the ship, it's about the itinerary, it's about where I'm going. And so those are my views. I just want to hear what everybody has to say. Just leave something in the comment, leave something in the chat about it. And so I don't really have a desire to go on Icon. If for some reason there's some great deal just to experience it, but as I said, I would have to then just go on the ship. Let that be the vacation. Let that it's so huge. Let that be the vacation. I'm a person about like trying specialty restaurants. Um, Linda says need a balance between ship size and available ports. Exactly. So you need a balance between ship size and available ports. And so if you have these big ships, it limits you in ports. Like how many times can we go to Nassau? How many times can we go to the Bahamas? Even if it's the private island, you want a beach day, but how many times can we go to the same ports before we say, okay, that's nice and all, but I'm trying to get to somewhere else. I did see Wonder of the Seas. I was sailing and I did see Wonder of the Seas, for example, at St. Martin. So the bigger you get, can some of these bigger ships even go to St. Martin? Like, is what's too big to the point where it's only can go to a few ports at all? So I'm getting ready to go. Thank you so much for coming on Sunday. Remember that every second Sunday of the month I am live. And so thank you for coming along with me. See you next month. Check out, I have so many vlogs coming up. I'm finishing this Ruby Princess series. And I also have Scarlet Lady. I have the vlog series of Scarlet Lady that's getting ready to come up as well. And so I have some videos coming up and some vlogs that I've done. So stay tuned to the channel. If you haven't clicked on the notification bell, click on the notification bell so that you can be informed of future posts. Thank you so much for coming on. See you next month.